Hello, I'm Zoltan from Adagio Hands, Releasing Stuck Bodies. In this video, I'm going to talk about fascia, the connective tissue that runs through our bodies. And I work a lot with fascia myself, with clients where we're working on structure, body structure, structural alignment, structural balance, structural dynamics. And I'll hopefully be able to explain why that is. So what is fascia? Well, it's connective tissue running through our body. So think of it like this. It's elastic, but it's strong. It runs through our bodies, runs around our bodies, runs through our muscles and around our muscles. And perhaps a way to think of it is like a wetsuit. If you've ever worn a wetsuit, if not, imagine a rubber suit around your body. And that's something perhaps not so far-fetched, because if you think about it, our bodies are covered with a suit of sorts, which is our skin, right? It's all around our bodies. It doesn't stop anywhere, except of course our eyes, mouths and so on, but it doesn't stop at the ends of muscles. It doesn't stop at the end of the bones. It keeps going all around. And that's a similar idea if you think about the wetsuit, that we inhabit this wetsuit of connective tissue. Now, what happens when that wetsuit has a pathology? So when there's a problem with the wetsuit, well, so usually the wetsuit moves with us, right? So if we stretch, the wetsuit stretches. If we contract, the wetsuit contracts. If we reach up, it stretches. Reach down, it contracts along the front. But what if, for example, there's an injury? Maybe it's a post-operative condition. So something was cut here, let's say in the shoulder, scar tissue has formed, which is a good thing because that's protective and it's strong. But as a result, look, if there's scar tissue formed here, then when I reach out with my arm, it'll be harder for me to reach fully. And I might feel constriction here in my shoulder, or I might just feel I can't seem to stretch my arm to the end and it's pulling on my wrist. Why? It's because that fascia, that connective tissue that's stuck here, goes all the way out to my hand and will be pulling there. Similarly, it may not be injury, but it may just be ongoing tension. And I work a lot with musicians who hold a certain posture for a long length of time through practicing and performance. And eventually the body gets wise to this and says, well, I'm going to lay down more hard stuff, more collagen into the tissues to support that area. So let's say it's someone holding their hands up like this, might be a wind instrument, for example, and the wrist will get additional tough tissue. So if I take my shirt as an example, do you see here that the tissue is relatively flexible here, but here on the cuff, it's designed to be a bit more tough. And maybe that's what you feel in your wrist if you've been using it a lot playing an instrument. It'll feel slightly tight, restricted in its motion. Maybe there'll even be a burning sensation because it's starting to clamp down on the surrounding nerves. So we've talked about injury, we've talked about tension, or it may just be some other habit, morphology, if you like. So let's say, again, if you think of a musical instrument, a guitar player might be playing the guitar, and they may eventually have one shoulder coming forward a little while the other shoulder is back. Why? Because they're always in that position, and the connective tissue, the wetsuit, if you like, morphs to that condition. And when they place the guitar down, unless they do regular stretching and rebalancing of the body, the connective tissue of the body will start to adopt that shape, and they'll find one shoulder is more forward than the other. So injury, tension, habit all contribute to some fascial restriction somewhere in the body. And just to give you a more generic example, imagine that there's someone with lower back pain. And often we think lower back pain, okay, we need to work on the lower back, but not always the case. So it may be, just using the shoulder as the example, that there's tightness here in the shoulder, and that will be pulling fascially, so through these connective tissues on the lower back. It may cause the lower back to arch more and more, and it may also mean we can't quite lift and stretch our arm there because it's tight down to the lower back. And of course, it may be coming from somewhere else into the lower back. It may be coming from the ankle, from an old ankle injury, for example. So we then release the chain of fascia from the source of the problem to the symptom of the problem, to where the pain is, the site of pain. So what can we do about this? Well, my advice to anyone who's in some musculoskeletal pain is to see if some gentle stretching will help first. And sometimes it does, because the body is remarkably resilient and resourceful in sorting itself out, and we don't immediately need to rush off to see a healthcare professional. It's also sometimes helpful to strengthen areas around the pain, so that may offload the muscles and the tissues that are causing pain. But if you found that after a period of disciplined stretching and strengthening, so I'd say if you do something every day for a week and you have no improvement whatsoever, then you're probably well advised to do something more programmatic. So that might be a program of yoga or a fascial training, or it may be, if you want to shortcut months, years of exercise, and if you want to get direct to the pathology, to the point that's really causing the problem, then you might seek out a manual therapist specializing in myofascial release. And myofascial, it means the fascia that pervade and go through the muscles in particular. That's where the myo comes from. So try some stretching, try some targeted strengthening first. But if those just don't yield results relatively quickly, if they yield no results whatsoever, then it's worth seeking out a program of exercise or some manual therapy support. I hope you found that helpful. Thank you for listening. Good with whatever you decide to do, and I look forward to seeing you again soon. Bye for now.